the Chef's Pantry. So today we are making moule frite, mussels and potatoes. This is the national dish of Belgium, but you see it all across the world. And we're lucky in New England, we have some really good mussels in our neck of the wood. But these delicious little shellfish are globetrotters. So you find them popping up across cultures with different flavor profiles. Today, we're keeping things classic, and this is a great cold weather dish. Mussels are at their best when they're coming from cold water. Their bellies are super tender and plump, just the way I like them. And then potatoes keep well in root cellars. So this is a great pairing when you're talking about something delicious and so affordable. For under 10 bucks, we're gonna eat like queens and kings. So let me show you what I have today lined up. We're gonna be making delicious hand-cut, air-fried French fries with some rosemary and sea salt, shoestring, nice and crisp, a delicious aioli or mayonnaise dipping sauce that we're going to do by hand. And then let's start with the flavors that we're going to build for our moule frite. So we have some garlic, a little bit of heat with Fresno pepper, some butter, olive oil, carrots, celery, thyme, creme fraiche, leek, and then a little bit of Pernod and prosecco. You could also use white wine. But when my favorite mussel dishes come to the table, they usually have some similarities. So something from the allium family like garlic, onion, shallot, spring onion, leek, some sort of cream like heavy cream, butter, coconut milk, in this case creme fraiche, and a little bit of acidity to balance that out. Today we're using the wine, but sometimes you see lemon juice, and then a little bit of liqueur can add a really great personal twist. Okay, so I'm gonna bring my pan to temperature. Now let's talk about picking perfect mussels. Don't be intimidated. Go to a market that has a lot of people there, that has people using the seafood counter, because that means they have a really good turnover. So these I picked up at the market. They were on ice. I gave them a whiff, dropped my mask, gave them a whiff, and I smelled the spirit of a mermaid. There's nothing that like makes me shiver and feel icky inside. They just smell like I'm diving off a boat in the fresh salt water of New England. These are from Maine, and a lot of the times when you buy a bag of mussels, you can flip the tag over and it gives you some important information. A harvest date, an out of purge date, and then a use by date. What I want to see is the harvest date and the purge date not too far apart. So harvest date is obviously when they picked them from the sea, picked them off the rocks or their farm, their mussel farm, but then in some states like Maine, they're allowed to cold water store them. So these are only 3 days apart between when they were picked and when they came out of purge. They didn't sit too long and get grumpy and stinky, and then they were shipped to the market. So they smell great. Now, we want a musselscape. Like Manscaped, you want a musselscape. You want Metro mussels, and you want to exfoliate, and you want to debeard them. Okay, so a couple things with mussels. I hate when I go to the restaurant and this little furry patch is stuck in there. It's unsightly, it has terrible texture, and you want to just, with conviction and determination, pluck it from your mussel. You don't need that. Give that to the compost. Now, this was a trick that I learned in Italy when AJ and I went on a little baby moon. Okay, so I'm gonna blast these with some cold water, and then you want to exfoliate them, because think about it, these mussels are going to be sauteed. You're gonna let all that great juice from their bellies incorporate into a sauce. So everything on this is going to be part of your dinner story. So you want to polish that shell. So here's some really coarse kosher salt. And then this is a great thing if you're cooking with the kids, get them involved. You're going to generously sprinkle your mussels with the salt. And then just like a good body scrub, you're going to polish the mussels. And this is going to organically brush off any of any extra like sea debris. So you can get your hands in there. This also gives you a good opportunity to check to make sure that there aren't any cracked shells. You don't want the mussels to sound hollow. And then the shells are just going to become glossy, black, and brilliant. So the kids love this. It's like a day at the beach. When you're done polishing or exfoliating, you can just rinse them off. You don't need any of that salt. So a great way to make sure that there isn't any sand or mud in there. Look how beautiful those are. Ooh, yeah. Okay, and then these have been exfoliated. These have been debearded. I'm just going to rinse them in cold water. And make sure you don't, if you want to do the prep work, cleaning them up, keep them refrigerated or on ice, but not soaking in cold water. That will kill saltwater mussels. Okay, let's check on our pan. I like a hot pan over here. So here we have a little olive oil. Just a nice base to get this nice mirepoix going. Little butter. Let's boost this. Nice. I feel like this is like where most of my love stories in the kitchen start, with a little garlic and a little butter. Okay, so for the garlic, I don't want to fry the garlic. I just want to give it a nice light brown. So I'm going to drop the heat a little bit. Let that start to infuse with the butter. And then, speaking of infusion, I'm going to drop a couple sprigs of thyme in. Now, I like hearing that. That is my snap, crackle, pop right there. Let the thyme start to infuse, and even a little bay leaf. We're just building a nice aromatic base here. Garlic, and mussels, those flavors just hug those sweet, plump bellies. Okay, so I want to add the celery, the carrots, the leek. I did a really fine mince. I julienned the carrot, and I wished that I had a prep chef to help me, because I like things more rustic. I don't know that I would do well in like a French kitchen where they're so refined and strained and elevated. I like things that are a little more hearty. But I wanted something that would tuck in to the bellies and shells of the mussels when they start to open. Leek is amazing. Shallot is also really good if you don't want to use leek, but leek becomes so buttery. It's really delicate. It's a little bit more of a softer, sweeter flavor than you find in like a yellow onion. And I think it has a refinement that's really nice. And then already I love seeing all these pretty colors start to pop together. And then just a touch of heat. You could also use a chili flake, Aleppo pepper, a little red pepper, if you want just that little pop in there. I don't want anything too spicy in this dish. We're going to eat this as a family, but I think a little bit of heat brings out the sweetness that you get from those briny bellies in the mussels. So, that going, pull up the heat a little bit, add a little more minced thyme, and then let's bring over our moule. Okay, so one of the things that we want to do is create pretty much a thin layer of mussels in that dish. That's why I used, instead of like a big tall pot, a nice flat saute pan. Because if you crowd the pan and stack up the mussels, they're not going to be able to naturally open. And I want all the mussels to open. That's a sign that they're fresh, they were living, they're going to be delicious. I'm just going to incorporate them and give them a little shuffle. Woo! Hot! I wanted it hot. I got it hot. And then you just can agitate the pan a little bit like that to get them all down. Voila! There we go. Okay. Oh, and then you can see they're already starting to pop open. And where did I put my lid? Put a lid on it, kids. As they start to cook and they open, they're going to release juice, which is going to add to our delicious sauce that we're building. Okay, let's take a peek. Ooh, I love how that smells. Oh, and I maybe almost forgot the most important part. Watch those little shells start to pop open. Okay, so a nice dry white wine would be great. Woo! But prosecco is also nice too. The little bubbles I feel like are mingling well with the mussels. So I'm going to add, I don't know, about half a cup to a cup, kind of eyeball it. And I also thought a nice dry prosecco would be a nice pairing for dinner. So Pernod is a French liqueur that has a delicious licorice flavor. And there's so many different ways that you can take this very beautiful base of flavors that we're building and tweak it. Maybe you want to pull in some coconut or curry flavors. Maybe you want to do some mustard. I love cream mustard sauces with my mussels, but today we're going to go a little bit licorice. So just a little teaspoon or two to give like a kiss of licorice flavor in there, I think will be really fantastic. And then I'm going to keep the lid off and let the prosecco reduce by about half. Oh man, already that dry prosecco is so nice, and then just that like wisp of licorice where you're like, oh, what's that? What are you cooking? We're cooking mussels. We're cooking mussels frites. Okay, so this needs just a minute. I'm going to put a lid on it. When we come back, this is the perfect time to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to add a little bit of cream, plate them up, and then make our fries. Oh, well, hi there. Welcome back to the Chef's Pantry. We're making mussel frites today. Mussels, potatoes, French fries. Mwah, so delicious. And your timing is perfect because these mussels are cooked to perfection. Now we are ready to even build that sauce out a little bit further. Okay, so these have had about 5 minutes to steam. Look at how beautiful and plump and tender all these bellies look. In a strainer over a little bowl, I'm gonna go ahead and just dump everything. I want to collect all that delicious broth without the bits that will get in the way of kind of emulsifying and creating a really creamy texture for us to sop up and add to everything. Oh, but look, I want to get out all of this, all of these last little bits. Okay, come with me over here. Let's just give this a quick rinse. Those last little celery and carrot bits aren't invited to the party. Okay, back on the burner. Let's crank up the heat. Let's take our mussels and pour in that beautiful broth that has all that delicious mussel juice as well as the prosecco and the Pernod and the flavors from the leek, the pepper, the carrot, the celery, all those delicious flavor base that we've started to build here. I'm gonna give it a little taste. Oh man, wine and shellfish, yum. Okay, so here's my creme fraiche. Creme fraiche is delicious. It has a really beautiful silky texture to it that I love in something like this. So you don't get all that, it's just a little bit different than butter where you don't get just like that sort of greasy texture. You get this, just this poetry in like a cream base that we're going to build here. So I'm going to kind of eyeball this. I started with about 2 tablespoons. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. I'm just using a little whisk to make sure I incorporate and emulsify the broth with the creme fraiche. And then we'll add a little touch of salt and a little touch of pepper. And I don't need a rugged boil here. I just want a slow simmer so things don't burst apart. It's just like a happy love story. Okay. Now I like that milky color in there. Give it a little taste. Oh, Okay, I'm just gonna add a touch of salt. Okay, the creme fraiche, creme fraiche, prosecco, yum. A little bit of salt, but the mussels are already salty, so it doesn't really need much. And then maybe even like a little cracked pepper, but if you wanted like a little extra heat. But we put some Fresno pepper in there, so it has a little bit. Okay, that's good. How about a little more thyme? Yum. Okay. So this sauce I love. I'm going to just go ahead and add back the mussels so they have time to blend and infuse and mingle like they're invited to an amazing party. And this is a great time for us to make our frite. Okay. So with the heat on low, I'm going to cover it. Let these stay warm. I don't want them to overcook because when you start to overcook mussels, that's when their bellies start to get a little bit more tough and chewy, but this will buy us a few minutes. Okay, homemade French fries are the best. You can do them in a fryer, you can do them in your oven. If you have an air fryer, that's another great way to make them crispy and delicious. Let's see, I started these a little bit ago. I'm just gonna go ahead and cook them off, give them some nice heat and texture, and then let me show you what I did. Here I got some russet potatoes. You could also use Yukon Gold. This mandolin is your friend when you're hand cutting your French fries. You of course could julienne them with a chef's knife, or you could use the French fry setting that's about 1/4 inch apart. And then I hate the mandolin, but for homemade French fries I would do it. I'll do one pass for you, but this is what you are yielded. Beautiful 1/4 inch shoestring fries. But this is like my most feared kitchen gadget, though I do love the uniformity it offers. I'm just gonna put this over there. And then in peace and quiet, when I wasn't being filmed, I sliced these up. So this is about, I don't know, I grabbed a bag of potatoes and sliced them 1/4 inch thick for the French fry size, and then immediately soaked them in ice water. You need to let them soak for about a half an hour. Turn the water a couple times, rinse, repeat, so it wicks out as much starch as possible. And then after they've had a chance to soak, then lay them out for at least a half an hour on a dish towel until they're nice and dry. So the drier they are, the crispier your French fries will be. And I love a good crispy fry. Okay, so for these, I still dream about these French fries AJ and I used to get at Celle de la Terre in Boston back in the day. Oops, doesn't like that. That were just rosemary and sea salt. They were fantastic. So I like to keep things simple with a French fry. So these are just going to be a vehicle to soak up all the delicious flavor that we've built in our mussel sauce. So dry, sliced potato, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, and some rosemary. And this will also be what we finish these off with when they come out. And then these are ready for your baking sheet if you want to put them in your oven around 400 degrees or your air fryer. So this had a fry setting 380 for about 25 minutes, and then I tossed them a few times. Okay. Swap these out. Let's take a look. Can you hear how crisp they are? Oh yeah. Yum. These are going to be perfect for the mussels. Okay. I'm going to drop these in, get another good batch going. Our mussels are ready. We have one more thing because it's all about the dip. I have a delicious homemade aioli for us, and then we're going to bring everything together. We'll be back. Welcome back to the Chef's Pantry. I put away the mandolin, so now it is safe to have just a sip of prosecco while we finish off our delicious moule frite. So we steamed our mussels, we air fried, hand cut French fries that we're going to finish off with some rosemary and sea salt. And now, cheers. Oh, that's nice. One of my favorite things with French fries is to dip them in a little aioli. So you could use Kewpie mayonnaise that has a really rich flavor. It's just made with egg yolk. You could use Hellmann's. You could maybe add a little bit of heat like sriracha, or maybe a little truffle oil, some lemon juice to thin it out a little bit and add your personal touch. Or you can make your own. It's really easy and fun, and I hope this works today because I feel like mayonnaise and aioli kind of have a mood to them. So I hope the stars are aligned. Here's what I'm going to put in mine today. An egg yolk from our chickens, a little bit of whole grain mustard. Hot mustard would also be really good, but I like the horseradish. I like the whole grain. Some fresh squeezed lemon juice, a little bit of salt and Aleppo pepper to taste. Red pepper, cracked pepper would also work. And then a mild oil. This is grapeseed oil. Canola oil would also be good. And I also really like pure olive oil. So you can do this in a food processor, or like if you have a mini food processor, that works really well, especially when you're making not a big volume. But I'm going to use a pint glass. Don't get this confused with cocktail hour. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of lemon juice just to get the party started. And then I'm going to use this little frothy whisker that we use for like steamed milk or Dalgona coffee, but I'm going to use that as my emulsifying agent. You could also use a hand whisk if you want, but using a pint glass that has a really tall side gives this the space it needs to create a vortex that's going to give like a really great thick quality to it. And then I'm adding, I've pre-measured my oil, so it'll probably end up taking about a half a cup of oil, but you want to just add it slowly, almost at like a little dribble, to not overwhelm your yolk and to give everything a chance to like emulsify and really incorporate. Okay, I think we're doing well. We're definitely putting the frothy to the test. Maybe I needed new batteries. But here, you can see it's starting to thicken reluctantly, right? Then maybe I'm going to add a little more lemon juice. I had my doubts, but I think we'll do it. A little more lemon juice. That'll help thin it out. I think if I try to add the mustard with this, it might push it over the edge. But look at how, like, that nice, like, thick texture, how it clings to the whisk is really what I'm looking for. Let me give it a taste. See where we stand on this. Okay. Oh, it's good. Okay, let me add a little mustard. I think I'm gonna have to bring it home by hand. I'm gonna add a little more lemon juice and a little salt. And I love a little heat. And these flavors are going to mirror some of the flavors that we built with our mussel sauce, and it will be perfect. It will be very delicious. Okay. There. Okay. I think next time I'm going to use the food processor. It's like, oh, it's good. And then you add that final touch of acidity, and my mouth just wants to smile. That's great. Okay. So here's my little dipping sauce bowl. Let's put that on our serving platter. And now let's plate it up. It smells amazing in here. It smells like date night when you have dinner in, and it's just like better than the restaurants. Okay, so French fries, these came out hot out of the air fryer. I'm just gonna finish them off with a little Maldon sea salt and a little more rosemary. We already have those great flavors in there already. And now look at these mussels. Oh, that creme fraiche and that prosecco are truly just like those secret ingredients. Okay, so I want this to be heavy on the sauce. Give those French fries, let them quench their thirst with all of the delicious cream sauce to sip on to their heart's content. Okay. Oh, look at that. I think maybe I should try this one. Oh. It is so good. Okay. Let's go ahead and add now the cream. This is hot. Woo! There you go. Look at that. Okay. Mussel, frite, and prosecco. Should we give it a taste? Delicious. Under $10, fresh, New England based, so delicious. New England based, but it's like you're in Belgium. Cheers.